Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a 2024 GMC Sierra 2500 HD, and we've installed the M&R reverse light kit that offers powerful white light as well as backlighting feature. Alright, so let's see what's inside the box. 2 light pods with plenty of wiring. Fuse them together. 2 U-cradles that mount the lights to the truck, and then you get mounting hardware. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to install these U-cradles onto the rear truck bumper, and then we're going to mount the lights onto the cradle. So follow me. So now I'm underneath the truck on the passenger side. I'm going to take out this Torx bolt that's going in the subframe, and we're using a T40 bit. So I'm going to go ahead and back this bolt out, slide the U-cradle, and put it back in. Alright, so the way I'm installing my U-cradle is with the tabs facing towards the back of the vehicle, and I'm going to use the hardware we just removed going through the U-cradle and going back into the truck bumper. And so make sure to straighten it out, because the way you tighten this bolt is how it's going to be angled. We'll be able to adjust the angle up and down, but left and right is typically through this bolt. It's gonna be hard to get to later. And now we're gonna slide the light onto the cradle and install the hardware from the side. And just using an Allen key, you can tighten this to the U-cradle. Keep in mind that the angling up and down can be easily accessible later, so we can still adjust the up and down angle of the reverse. So let's do the same thing on the driver's side. Alright, so now I'm on the driver's side. I'm going to take out the Torx screw. I'm going to thread it through the U-cradle, and I'm going to reinstall it. Alright, so now we're going to mount the light onto the U-cradle. Alright, awesome. Alright, so now that we got these installed, let's talk about the wiring. Each light has 3 wires coming out of it. The black wire is the ground, the red wire is the powerful white light, and the white wire is the DRL. And you get to choose whether you want it to be red or amber. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and fuse all the wires the same colors in the rear, and we're going to use 14 gauge wire that does not come with the kit. You're going to have to source your own wire just to drag it to a power source. So in our case, we're going to drag it across the frame all the way in the engine bay, because that's where our M&R wireless wiring harness module is. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the passenger side and right behind the license plate. I found it is the easiest way to pass through most of this wire. And just like that. So now we can fuse it on the driver's side. I'm going to go ahead and take off the tips from the wires, and we're going to pair them up. So black to black. Once again, that's going to be our ground, and I'm going to put on a crimp connector on it. These are waterproof, so at the end of our install, we're going to go ahead and heat these up. When you apply heat to these, they shrivel and become waterproof. Okay, black is done. Now we're going to do the same thing to the red wire, which is the main function of the light. In this case, it's going to be the powerful white light. Then we're going to do the same thing to the white wire, which is the DRL function. And before you order, you get to choose whether it's amber or red. Awesome. Alright, so I got a little piece of black wire. We're going to use this as a grounding strap. I'm going to go ahead and crimp it to the other end of the crimp connector on the black wire side. Just a quick reminder, you will have to outsource the wire and an eyelid for your ground, and some wiring for dragging the wire to the engine bay or wherever you want the power source to be. So on the ground side, I'm going to go ahead and install an eyelid. Okay, so now we're done with the black wire on the harnesses. Okay, so now that I have the eyelid, let's go ahead and ground. So as far as the ground, once I put the eyelid, I'm going to go ahead and use this bolt to ground it. So this is a 13mm bolt. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. I'm going to thread it through my eyelid, and I'm going to reinstall it. Alright, so we're done with the ground. The next step, we're going to go ahead and extend these 2 wires, the red one and the white one, to our power source, which is the wireless wiring harness. So now that we have a good ground on the lights, now it's time to run the 2 power sources. I personally like to start from the front of the truck and work my way backwards. Just because if you start from the front, you'll know exactly how much wire you need, because we're going to feed it down the fender, take it down to the frame, and then run it back. So at the end, it's going to be easier to know how much the length of the wire they need. We'll just clip it off here and connect it to a power source. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and feed this wire down this fender and get it from the bottom. So with the help of an assistant, have somebody feed it to you, and there's an opening on the bottom here that you can pull it out. Somebody's feeding me the wire from the top, and I'm going to grab it here. So let's go ahead and give me some slack.
Okay, tell me when you see it.
But I think it's coming. There we go, keep going. Alright, so now that we got the wire on the bottom here, I'm gonna go ahead and use the frame of the truck to extend it all the way to the back. So once I do it, I'll show you exactly where I use the zip ties. I'm just going across the rail wherever there's holes or any type of other wiring. Alright, it's kind of hard to get the camera in here. I'm going to show you guys after I'm done. But all we're looking for is just spots where the wire doesn't get pinched. And make sure to throw in a zip tie maybe around every foot just to have it nice and tight and have no slack. Alright, let me show you guys how I ran the wiring. So the wiring's coming down the fender, and then I found a factory bundle of wires, and I just zip tied my wire alongside of it all the way to the back underneath the factory mounts and all the way towards the axle. Alright, so we zip tied our wire along the factory harness on the body of the frame of the vehicle, and then we went over the suspension on top of the wheel well, and then our wire actually came out here. So this is going to give us enough wire to connect to our reverse and the backlighting features. So now that we have a wiring here, I'm going to go ahead and connect them to the lights from to the wires from the lighting. The factory wiring you get from the lights is red and white. Red being the main function of the light, which is powerful bright light, and then the white wire is the amber DRL or red DRL. The wire that we chose has two strands. It's a red and black. So just remember, you're actually going to go red to red and white to black, and black is going to be our new power source. So to make it simple, I'm going to crimp the red. These are just standard wire colors. If you can source a double-stranded wire that has a red and white, you can choose to do that. This is just something we had around the shop. So black to white. So the black wire in the engine bay, that's going to be our DRL function now. So let's go ahead and connect these two power sources to the wireless wiring harness and get some power to the lights. So you can do this with a lighter or a heat gun. All I'm doing is applying heat to it, and you can even see it right in front of you. It shrivels up and creates a watertight connection. Alright, so now that these are heat shrink, I'm going to go ahead and just zip tie everything. There's some harness wires already, so I'll just go ahead and tuck all my wiring to them to prevent them from hanging. So here we have the wireless harness 1.0. Let's go ahead and unpackage it and see what's inside. The instruction manual, stickers for the buttons that we're going to put on the remote, wireless remote, just regular L brackets. Sometimes I like to use oversized zip ties instead of the L brackets. Makes it a lot easier. This is the wireless module that we're going to use to connect to the battery and put in all our light bars to. And here we have a master fuse. So it has a 80 amp breaker. I do want to talk about the breaker though. Let me take off this protective cover. So I want to show you guys, when this gets connected to the battery, one end gets connected to the battery, second end gets connected to the module. If the breaker is in line with the button, that means there's current going through it. The moment you press the button, that breaks the circuit, and now there's no power going to the module. So when I'm doing my installs, I usually press the reset button, open the breaker so there's no current, and when everything's nicely installed, you go ahead and snap it back in, and now everything's live. That goes for the positive on the terminal. The negative ground on the terminal, we have a grounding strap for a module, and there's also a small USB charger for the remote. So another thing I want to point out, on the instruction manual, there is a highlighted field. This is instructions how to pair the wireless remote to the module. So every time there's no current going to the remote for a long period of time, it de-learns what remote has to be paired with it. So there's pairing instructions. So whenever you put power back into the box, you have to press the 5th key counterclockwise, which is on the bottom right corner, and that's going to pair the remote to the module, and then everything's going to start working. Alright, let's go ahead and connect the wiring to the box and get it installed. Alright, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and there's 4 Phillips screws on the corners of the box. And when we open it, you can see everything's nicely epoxied, and you have the 8 different circuits ranging for different amperages, and they have different fuses installed. So you have your 5 amp fuses, you have your 10 amps, 20 amps, and even 30 amps. So on here you have a plus sign. This shows you that this is for the positive terminal, and this is for the ground. One end of this is going to go towards the battery. The second one is going to go inside the module. So I'm going to slide this wire underneath it, and there's slots here to bring in all your wiring, because when you put the cover on, it'll interfere. And I'm going to loosen this terminal. It's just a Phillips screw. And I'm going to slide the forks of the red wire under the contact plate. So that's going to be the power. And we're going to do the same thing to the ground. Slide it underneath, direct it underneath the contact plate, and tighten it. So now that we have the positive and the negative connected, we can go ahead and connect the positive and the ground to the vehicle's battery. Let's go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and take off this protective cover. Slide this power terminal right underneath this bolt, and I'm going to tighten it back up. Now we're done with the power side of the module. Let's do the same thing with the ground. So the ground, we have a ground side of the battery, which is a negative terminal. I'm going to loosen the ground bolt, and I'm going to slide the terminal right underneath it, and then retighten the bolt. So now we provided power and ground to the power distribution box. All right, so we've cut off the amount of wire that is necessary, and now we have the back of the lights connected. So all we have to do is just give power to these two lights to operate the reverse and the amber DRL. So with using the M&R wireless wiring harness, I'm going to feed my two wires through here. Just a quick reminder, the red wire is going to be the powerful white light, and the black wire is going to be the new white wire, which is the amber DRL. Alright, so when looking at the wireless wiring harness, I'm going to go ahead and use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch number 6 and 7. We already have a light bar using 4 and 5, so we're going to use 6 and 7, which is a 10 amp fuse for the white light and 5 amp fuse for the DRL. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen the positive terminal for the red wire, and that's going to be the backup light, and then the 5 amp is going to provide power to our black cable, which is our DRL. Alright, so let's go ahead in the back and test out our wireless remote. Alright, so now that we have the installation complete, let's go ahead and test it out. So we have the red backlighting feature of the lights, and with another button that provides a different power source, we have the powerful white light. Overall, this kit is amazing. It tucks really neatly to the bumper, puts out a ton of light. Thank you guys for watching. I know you guys are going to love the product. Stay tuned for a night output video so you guys can see exactly how much light these pods put out.